A full-time engineering job and a remote part-time job. What are some things I should consider if I do take it? Interesting. All right, let's read this question. I was fortunate enough to be headhunted by a recruiter. They're looking for someone to work 15 hours a week. My job says I cannot do anything that competes with my main role in any way. P.S. I have only been working full time for a year. What is a good way to know if this second job is competing? I assume it's not. But is there an intuitive way without asking HR? Okay, this is interesting. First question. Are they competitors? Are these companies competitors? I'd say that's the first way that you'd find out. And would working for one company violate an NDA for the other company? That is the easiest way to figure out whether or not they're competing. And if they're not, then you're past that part. But here's the part that I'm more concerned about. Does the second company operate during regular business hours? And by that I mean, will you be required to take some time in the traditional Monday through Friday work week that you already work on with your first company to do work for the second company? If there's a conflict there, then maybe you should avoid this. In fact, you said you've been working at this company for 1 year. I think that the most important thing for you to do as an employee that's working somewhere in your first year is to do a really good job in your first job and get that, at least get that first promotion. That first impression that you make in the professional workforce as an employee is a big one in my opinion. And it sounds like you're putting yourself into a situation with a little bit of gray area and where you could potentially be hurting yourself. So in general, I would say probably avoid this. Now, does that mean that on the weekends you can't do like a part-time job? Say, for example, if you have student loans and you're trying to pay back your student loans and you wanted to pick up a waitressing gig on the weekends or in the evenings, or I caddy sometimes for fun because it comes with free golf and it's a nice little extra spending money and I enjoy it. And it's on the weekends and it doesn't get anywhere close to interfering with my current commitments. But that is completely different than working another engineering job. That's definitely something that I wouldn't ever consider doing. And, you know, I would just be really wary of this situation. And if you say, is there an intuitive way without asking HR? If it's such a gray area that you're worried about asking your current employer about it, then maybe you shouldn't do it. Like, it's one thing to have your own side hustle where you run your own business, or you drive for Uber or something like that on the weekends. It's a completely different thing to work another professional job during business hours. So I would recommend to you that you not take the remote part-time job unless it's not ever going to conflict with your working hours and it's not in the same industry. But I mean, if you're a full-time employee and you're salaried, there also might be some weeks where you have to, work a couple extra hours. And if you work long one day, is that going to affect your ability to work for another company? Are you ever going to be in a situation where you have to put down work from one company to work for another company? It's just stuff like that where it's not like a contract thing or a gig thing or freelancing. If it's an actual part-time job, especially as an engineer, that's makes me really nervous. So I'd recommend avoiding it and just continuing to do a good job at your current job. But I will say that I've heard those stories of people that work remotely for a job and then they don't actually have any work to do, so they pick up a second full-time remote job, and that that just screams conflict of interest and liability and setting yourself up for a potential disaster to me. I mean, that just that's scary. And I mean, could you pull it off? Probably. I mean, yeah, you probably could pull it off, but I'm not going to sign off on it and I'm not going to recommend it. So there's my 2 cents, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. But if you do, let us know. Let us know how it goes.
I'm not complaining, I'm not complaining. My thoughts get complicated, I cannot explain in lameness. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.